Martin Luther King championed the civil rights movement. This is the Right to Be Civil movement. Y'all want to know who you voted for? So they can let you in or show you the door. She votes left and he votes right. It's a hell of a recipe for a holiday fight.
From our recording studio in Castleberry, Florida, and our production house in Coral Springs, you're listening to the Purple Evolution Podcast.
I don't know any left people, I don't know any right people. We're all different shades of humanity. I don't know any red people, I don't know any blue people. We're all different shades of humanity.
My name is Doug Halper, and with your permission, I will be your guide on a journey through all things purple regarding the coexistence of human beings on this wonderful planet we call home. The creator of the Purple Evolution, my friend and our host, is Armand Volpe, who for over 40 years has been dedicated to being a stand for love. Along with his bride Angelina, Armand has stood true to this commitment through the mediums of public speaking, performing songwriter, TV and radio appearances, magazine and book publishing, personal counseling, and now the world of podcasting. Please help me welcome my favorite civil servant, or more aptly put, servant for civility, Armand.
You can't believe what?
I can't believe that every single week or each time we do one of these, I'm thinking, this is so important. There is so much going on. This is the most important one we talk about. And here we are. I feel like there's more going on in our country right now. And, you know, the big thing that comes to me, and the three of us have talked about this, how easy it is to get discouraged when we see all the stuff that's going on in the world and in our country, especially. And I feel like we are the voice of encouragement, and we are, doing something in the right direction. So I'm excited about doing our part to heal some of the craziness that's going on right now. And we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff with a lot of angles today, but there's just so much going on. So I'm excited, bro.
Yeah. I keep thinking how, well, I know, especially on the late night talk shows, they keep saying, how can it get any crazier? And then each week it seems to get crazier. Who expected from last episode to this episode, we would have an attack on the Capitol, and we would have all 50 states on high alert at their Capitol buildings for the inauguration day and the days leading up to it. We would need to be calling in thousands and thousands of troops for the National Guard to DC it's like they keep saying it's stranger. It can't get any stranger. And yet it does.
It does.
Right.
Let's maybe we all say a silent prayer or a out loud prayer that with all the stuff that they're doing right now to protect the Capitol, including in all 50 states, that the chances of something like that happening that happened on January 6th, with 25,000 National Guard. What else did I hear? Secret Service is doing a whole lot of stuff right now. There's road closures, transit disruption. They're going to keep the security at the Capitol for an extra day. So hopefully they're more prepared this time.
And hopefully nothing big will happen.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty bad to watch all that happen. So
yes,
hopefully nothing will happen that would interfere and bring harm, disruption, and all that to anyone on Inauguration Day.
Okay, so I have two things to say about that. Number one is I remember one of our past guests, I think it was, can't remember if it was on the phone or we had them on video, but they were saying chaos in the streets. Everybody was, oh no. And she was saying chaos in the streets. Yay. Because she was saying we need change. And obviously, I mean, most people don't want harm to come to others if there doesn't need to be harm to come to others. A lot of people will say it's okay for harm to come to others if, they started it or they earned it or, they deserved it. And the second thing I have to say is that, how many millions of people, I keep being reminded that there are, how many, 73 million people, I don't know the numbers, that think Trump was elected. And it was stolen, and they're out there. So, the only way, if they think that democracy was stolen, then, how did we get our freedom in the United States? We went to war, and we fought for that freedom, and we killed for that freedom. And so they're thinking that if we've lost that freedom again, which is what, I'm not one of them, but I say they, I don't mean the bad guys. I mean half of our country, if they think that, they lost that freedom, what do you have to do to get it back? They think we have to fight for it. And that means that people are going to get hurt, people are going to be killed, and that's okay, because that's the price of freedom. So, what do you say to that?
I say there's no clear answer, because I think some of the statistics that I read were 4 out of 5 Republicans do not believe the election was fair. So that would be somewhat like 60% of the country would say, it was fair, and 40% would say it's not. And even with documentation, even with courts and evidence and things like that, we still can't get on the same page, which that's going to make it really, really tough. Here's a good example. And we're going to be talking more about this kind of finger pointing and things like that. But when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, the left was real excited about the protests, and the right not so excited. And as soon as there was rioting, then the right kind of got excited and said, yeah, you see what this kind of stuff does. And then they focused on that. And the left, I believe, didn't focus on the rioting and the looting maybe as much as would have been more fair. And the same thing happened at the Capitol. The left didn't like that group getting together to protest what they were protesting from the beginning. But the minute they crossed the line and went to the Capitol, then all of a sudden the left was going, yeah, you see, they were more excited at that point. You see what's going on. You see these people. It's like each one focuses on the negative side of the other and the positive side of themselves. And it's just amazing. I believe that Black Lives Matter protests were mostly peaceful. I believe that the Capitol folks that were there were mostly peaceful, and each group had a storm of crazies. You got to be pretty insane to burn down car dealerships and storm a Capitol. Those are not sane people. But again, they're associated. It's like this automatic association. The whole group must be like them. And to me, that's a big example. And of finger pointing and blaming and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, I know we want to talk about blinders today and finger pointing. Yeah, I am seeing a lot of blinders out there. And so, blinders are what they put on horses when for a number of reasons. And it's a number of reasons. Mostly, though, it's so they don't get distracted. Horses, their eyes are on the sides of their heads, and they say that they have up to like a 350-degree, vision range. And it's so they don't get distracted. And that's for a number of reasons. If they're race horses, they want them to just keep focused on going straight instead of all over the place. They don't want them to be spooked. When they were pulling carriages in the olden days, they didn't want to get scared from something coming up from behind. They're prey animals. So, as opposed to the predators like cats, horses are prey animals. So their first instinct is to run, away from all of their, potential threats. And so if they're pulling a carriage with people in it and they, see something behind and they get scared and their first instinct is to just like take off in any which direction, they're going to kill people that are in the carriage. You know, so they put the blinders on them just to keep them focused, front and center, keep going in that direction. That's what we want to see, but also to so they don't see anything else. And I believe that most of us have put blinders on ourselves, and then we do the whole confirmation bias to just keep those blinders really well fit. We watch the newscasts or broadcasters that we like, so they keep those real nice and fit. We listen to we get our surround ourselves with a circle of friends that keep those blinders in the same places. You mentioned earlier to me before the podcast, that our party leaders and our government leaders, keep promoting that. And my response was, they're a very small portion of the problem. It's not just the party leaders, it's the community leaders. It is the circle of friends that we hang out with. It's our parents, it's our siblings, it's our friends. It's the UPS guy that we talked to, because our FedEx, woman, she doesn't believe what we believe. So we just take the package and say thank you. But the UPS guy, now he believes what we believe. So we sit there and we chat for about 2 or 3 minutes, even though he's supposed to be, hauling butt. Why? Because they believe what we believe. So we're actually taking our own blinders and we're keeping them really nice and snug and fit, so we can only see what fits our story. I don't know if you see that as well.
Yeah, I think because it makes us feel safer if we're around people that think the way we think. I think it's also so we don't have conflict with others, because that's not comfortable for most of us. And so it's easier just to be around those that think like we think.
And the other thing is, and we've talked about it before, a huge majority of Americans are all on the same page that the media is constantly adjusting our blinders to keep them even closer fit. So we will support their programming, and apparently people get more excited about news these days that is very narrow, and it used to not be like that. Michael Smerconish was talking on his show one night where he said media used to be based around especially news, based around a personality. They got a personality to state the facts. The personality was not about ideology and opinions and blaming or anything. It was just, let's get somebody that'll be a fun person to tell the straight dope. And now we don't have much of that.
So I have a question then. How does that change? Because the media, I don't think, see that they're doing, on both sides, feel they're telling facts and the way it is. And so if the media is a big part of where our separation is, how do we get, it's more than just the media, obviously, but how do we take each fragment and see what we can do to be more together, bring it together, and so people just hear the facts? I don't think that's even possible anymore. I don't want to sound negative, but I don't
No,
know.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I love that Armand. I always say I love that Armand is the Pollyanna here, because I need him. I do. I need him. I look at things. I was watching a TV show today. I was watching season 4 of of Fargo. It's they turned it into a series, and I love it. I love dark, and of course the movie was hysterical. Very dark, but also hysterical. The TV shows are very dark. They're not as hysterical. I would say there's definitely more dark than humor. But number 4 I'm watching, and it's all about gang wars. Not gang wars, mob wars, excuse me. And everybody's got a sad story. As a matter of fact, someone said that in an episode I just watched. Everybody's got a sad story. So you can take the worst human being in the history, you could take a Hitler person. And if you just focus on the sad part of their story, you can, watch an hour documentary on all of that and feel bad for the guy. I mean, everybody's got that. But we don't want to look at that for the people that we think are our adversaries. We know what our sad story is. And so I came over to America, but my country, we were treated like this. And when we came to America, we got kicked around and blah, blah. So dang it, that's why we should win. But everybody feels that way. They just don't want to listen to everybody, the other person's sad story. So we've got our blinders on. So my thought, Angelina, and the answer to your question in my very long way around the bush to get there is stopping before answering. Stop, take those 3 breaths, but this time it's not about how are they affecting me, although that doesn't hurt. But also, can I listen to what they just said for a second? My adversary just told me why they are the ones that are being hurt and why they are the ones that deserve to be treated more fairly. And if we stop before we answer, the way I did in the car that day, I talk about on previous episodes, and say, shut your mouth, Doug, and stop and take a few breaths and say, okay, what did they just say? Is it possible that what they just said is that they feel that that's true? Well, of course it's possible. It's probable because they said it. Why could it, where could they be coming from? And just stop and ask yourself some questions about where they're coming from. I think that is the only way, Angelina, that what we're talking about will ever happen, because we immediately want to defend. And everybody's got a sad story, but we only want to hear our own. Not only do we want to hear it, we want to tell it over and over and over again and over again. And then if someone else new comes, they, I haven't told them my sad story. Let me tell them.
Yeah. And a couple of things that brought to my attention. If we listen and we start to have empathy, the self-righteous part of us will resist that, because you can't be self-righteous when you have empathy for what other people are going through. And in addition to all of that we get to do, I think we could also help if all of us or most of us made a decision that the news media that pushes us to be more like that and tightens up those blinders, we're not going to watch them as much. We're going to actually, even if they agree with us and we might like what they're saying, just go ahead and say, I'm not going to watch that anymore. I'm just not going to build ammunition against the other side. Their ratings would go down. We have a lot of power if we come together as a people. And I know Angelina and I have tried, and I've talked to you about it, Doug, too. You and all of us, we try to watch stuff that's more objective. When we watch things that aren't objective, we turn on our objective eye. We pull those blinders off.
Or we try to watch different news stations that, talk each side. So we know what each side is talking about and feeling about. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, I would say the media and all of us as individual human beings, like Doug is saying, take that pause. And man, there's so much of it going on these days, which doesn't surprise me, because there's balance. The more craziness happens, the more groups rise up to find some kind of civility and empathy.
Without the pause, I think we're just looking for another civil war. And whether that's actual physical death, or whether that's just the separation of our country, I think it would be great if, all the liberals in this country just throw them in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and let them be, and take all of the conservatives and throw them in Oklahoma and Iowa and Nebraska and let them be, and give the rest of the friggin' country back to the Native American Indians. I mean, give me a break.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna get calls on that. Okay.
We absolutely probably, we might, but I mean, look, there's going to be another civil war if something else doesn't happen. If we don't stop to take that breath, the collective breath, every time we hear something that is, a blinder statement. And let me, it's finger pointing too. We wanted to talk about finger pointing. Let me give you the example that happened this week. I asked a friend of mine, a pretty hardcore conservative, and I asked them to give me examples because they believe the election was completely stolen, that there's absolutely no way that Biden could have won. And, so much evidence out there. And I said, please send me the evidence. I want to see what people are believing. I don't get it. And so they sent me all this evidence. And the first one was a YouTube that I watched. It's about 45 minutes long. And the entire thing, it had almost zero facts in it, factual information. It had finger pointing, it had blanket statements, it had exaggeration, hyperbole. And the funny thing is that they were finger pointing at finger pointers, and they were name calling people about being name callers. And I mean, it was so blatantly obvious that I felt like throwing up and laughing at the same time. My body wasn't sure what to do. Well, when I was done and there was no facts given, I mean, there was things that hinged on almost showing a fact, but they went back to all the stuff we talk about that's not purple. When I pointed that out, my friend said, well, next time I'll show you someone that has the facts without being, so non-purple. And my answer was, but there were no facts, that's all they did. I mean, I could have listened to some facts if they had given any. And so it's all so much finger pointing. I believe that finger pointing is the ratchet that tightens those blinders. Every time you finger point it, it just tightens it every time you do that. So taking that collective breath whenever somebody says something before we stop and finger point back, I think is the only way that we're going to avoid real destruction, and which would probably lead to physical civil war and a lot of killing. I do. Armand,
Yes.
tell me some happy news.
Happy news. Well, first thing, we've been talking about civil war in the purple evolution for a while now. And I would say what we saw on the Capitol siege on January 2nd or 6th was the first example that we could really have concrete evidence that we are back. We are back in the Civil War in some ways, where people are willing to kill and die for their political beliefs. I do believe that ultimately oneness and unity will rise. I do believe it does. I don't have a whole lot of evidence for that right now. But to me, one really good example of finding the what you call the Venn diagram, but the Vesica Pisces between the sides. Nobody wants to go into that area. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people don't want to go in that area at all. And one good example is the whole thing about Trump's responsibility for the Capitol riots. So the left, the far left would say Trump is responsible for all that went down. Now, the bottom line is we know that if we give one person that kind of power and we don't hold the people that did it accountable, we're in big trouble. So number one, we know that's not going to work. Then the right says we trust everything that Donald Trump has said for these last 4 or 5 years, and we don't believe he's responsible at all for that. Those were those crazies. They did it. It has nothing to do with our president, quote, / quarterback. But there's a whole middle section that can revolve around the idea that Trump has some responsibility for the way his words incited that event. And that way it doesn't have to be left or right, winners or losers. We can both have skin in the game anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, if you let someone like just be the listener and let them just take off with what they want to say, and maybe no facts involved and all, but maybe they just need to be heard and listened to. And so it's not easy to do, because when they're talking about things that are really crazy to you, to me, and I want to say something, but if we're just able to go, okay, wow, okay, tell me more, and just let them talk until maybe they feel like, wow, I've said what I needed to say. And
Called a
and
diplomat.
I wonder if that would be helpful, on both sides, because maybe people just feel they're not being heard, and they need to have their voice louder than someone else because they feel the need to be heard.
Sure. What was that movie with John Travolta? He was running for office, and that's what he did throughout most of the movie. And
Was it Primary Colors?
Yeah, I think so. I do believe that
Oh.
was it. Yeah. And he kept agreeing with everybody, and he was the one that was in the lead all the time, getting ahead because he was a good diplomat. Of course, a lot of people say that's not what we need right now. We don't need diplomats. We need people that will stand up and fight for what is right. But that makes a lot of other people wrong. And I think when you asked the question, Armand, do we really want half of our country to be wrong? I think a lot of people out there do. I think a lot of people out there would be happy if half of our country, took off, and went to New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York, and we just, put a wall around it like John Carpenter did in the 80s, Escape from New York.
Oh.
I think a lot of people would be happy with that, and that's why I don't want to say I'm fearful, but it makes me sad when I see so many people do that. Let me give you an example. When I was talking to my friend about the examples that were sent to me, they said that there's so much evidence out there about the fraud in the election that the judges were given, but they wouldn't even look at it because of technicalities, that they couldn't take it and said, I'm sorry, this isn't, and I didn't ask what the technicalities were, but I understand that happens in law all the time. Cases are thrown out because, somebody searched a car illegally. And so even though they found, all this illegal stuff, they can't prosecute, whatever.
Right.
I understand that. But, if you showed that same person, if you showed them evidence of how that happened in the past, against somebody that they, going in the other direction, they wouldn't want to see that. And, or there would be some reason to fight against that. And so that's what I mean by the blinders, only seeing your side. And that's why finger pointing, I believe, ratchets that closer and closer and closer. Because it always takes attention away when you're showing, when you're finger pointing, it takes attention away from you or your side, or, what you did in the past, or seeing, back in the past.
And here's a good example of that finger pointing. When the pictures started coming back from the Capitol riot, a lot of the folks that I know that are on the right were immediately going, Antifa, Antifa, that's Antifa. We were there to peacefully protest, and that's Antifa.
Or BLM.
Or BLM, right. And then, the opposites would happen as well. And even when there was evidence that showed that it was not Antifa, even Kevin McCarthy, who's the congressional minority leader in the House, told Donald Trump, we have no evidence that Antifa was involved in this riot. It's almost like they can't believe that, because what they heard cemented, ratcheted up the blinders, and that information is like cognitive dissonance. They just can't relate to it. I remember several of my QAnon friends on Facebook were pointing out this guy with these horns on his heads, and they were saying, that's an Antifa guy. And then later on, they found out he's a big QAnon guy, that he's proudly talking about QAnon. Crickets.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
or
wow.
or they'll start talking about something else and pointing fingers at something else. And that happens on all the talk shows too. So Angelina, to answer your question, it's taking a collective breath, not even a collective breath, you individually, when you're being told something you totally disagree with, just stop, just shut your mouth. Maybe that's the name of this episode. Shut your effing mouth.
Yeah.
Shut your effing mouth. Just stop. Breathe. Listen. Take a second to consider. Did they have a sad story in their past? Is there a reason they feel the way they feel? Can you just shut your effing mouth for a second? I think that's the only thing that's going to save us. And I hope that people would be willing to start doing some more of that, so we don't have to physically kill one another. I certainly am not going to, raise a gun and kill someone for it. So if you come to kill me because I'm on the other side, then I'll see you guys later.
Well, I would love to throw something in that may sound very vague, but it just keeps coming to me. And so I want to share it. And that is the idea that the Civil War in history is written down as a winner and a loser. The North won, the South lost. That creates a shitty dynamic all the time. And I believe that there are several people that are still trying to get a win because of that loss. If we could win this, if this could happen, if we could have our rebel flags up or whatever. And I'm thinking, that is not a North win and a South loss. That is an American loss. We lost as a country, killing each other over this situation. Was it necessary? People can quote and debate that forever. But the bottom line is we all lost in that situation. And how can we prevent that from happening again and get away from the idea of good guys and bad guys? We've got to work together.
And yeah, and that's another blanket statement too, like the good guys and bad guys. Who's good, who's bad? It's a blanket statement. It kind of reminds me of Black Lives Matter. I couldn't be more excited for the movement of Black Lives Matter, and yet I heard a conservative not long ago say that that they hate Black Lives Matter because it's evil, it's violent, it's dangerous. They're organized with weapons to hurt people, and I believe that there is probably some of that in people that believe in Black Lives Matter. I believe the numbers are very low compared to most people that are in support of Black Lives Matter. I don't see LeBron James going out on the basketball court, with an AK-16 trying to shoot the other team, or all the non-Black people. I see him going on the basketball court and wearing a shirt that says "I can't breathe." I love the movement, and I don't believe blanketing that one movement of Black Lives Matter as a dangerous group. I don't think that's true. And I would love to wear, I'd be honored to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt. I'd be, honored to wear a shirt. I can't wear one that says I can't breathe because I'm not Black, but I could wear one that says my friends can't breathe. And I think it's a wonderful movement. So to pigeonhole or to blanket statement anybody, including the Civil War, we won, or the South lost. Listen, I think there's a lot of great people out there that fly rebel flags. Just because they have a rebel flag out doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Now,
Absolutely.
As far as the debate of whether we should have it in government spaces and all, I have other opinions on that. But just because someone has a rebel flag on their license plate, or flies it from the back of their, truck, or Prius for that matter, it doesn't make them a bad person.
Absolutely. And you can't have there's not really a debate. If let's talk about the rebel flag. I know that you're a hater and you're a racist. There's no debate there. You're a racist and a hate monger, or you wouldn't have the flag. There's no debate. We can debate the details.
You had a conversation with someone down the street from us. You may have already talked about this in a previous episode, right?
Yeah.
But it was a.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, I noticed you have a bunch of rebel flags on your house. I'm sure a lot of people make up their mind what that means about you. How would you like to share with me what it really means? That was about 4 years ago. And it was a great conversation. Very much what we would imagine a Dukes of Hazzard kind of Southern heritage, Southern pride kind of energy. And it was wonderful. And, you bring that up about the Black Lives Matter. And how you believe in the movement. regardless of some of the negativity that's associated with them, folks that support Trump from the very beginning have felt, I support Trump. There's some racist, xenophobic hate mongers out there that also support Trump. That doesn't mean I'm one of them. And they have felt, and I get to see it justified. They are justifiably angry that they're automatically called a racist. Oh, if you voted for Trump, you're a racist. Yeah, it's I'm sorry. I can't say one side is worse than the other, but when it comes to that kind of stuff, really disheartened with the way the left has treated the Trump supporter. When I know that a lot of the stuff that they supported from Trump was stuff that they believed in their heart, and they thought he was going to be the best guy to get it done. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff surrounding that. But yeah, this is a big, big deal with Black Lives Matter, not to put them all in the same blanket statement, and certainly with people that support the Trump movement, because even Trump said it the other day, it's a movement. Don Jr. said the Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party. It's the party of my dad, and so that is a movement. This is the most important thing, I think, of anything we've talked about really on the podcast, is that we've got to quit demonizing entire groups.
Sure. And once you say something, having to defend it, the best way to defend it is to get the attention off yourself. And I do know that there's a lot of that's happening where people they can't eat crow. And you said, Dad, sorry, Dad. I know that you're probably trying not to be like this anymore. I love you, Dad. He listens to this podcast and watches it, but he and my brother were perfect examples. Yeah. He and my older brother were the perfect examples of this, for most of my life. Once they said something, they just couldn't go back, even if they found out they were wrong. And so they had to defend it, almost to the death. And my brother doesn't listen to this, so I can say that about him without worrying about it. But hi, Dave. And so there's a lot of that going on too. Maybe people that thought, their leader in the office, whatever side they're on, was going to do such and such, and then all of a sudden they turned out to be maybe not what they thought they were, but now they have to defend. So the best way to do that is to put on the blinders and finger point. On the blinders, finger point. Now, I'm not going to look at what you're saying. I'm just going to point the attention elsewhere. Shut your effing mouth. Take a breath, consider someone else's sad story, and realize that, if you don't want to go to civil war, perhaps we should learn how to play in the sandbox together.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Right.
What a perfect timing too, right now, with so many predictions and not only predictions, but sort of threats that we're saying you're going to see stuff between the 17th and the 20th of this month. Be prepared. Mm-hmm. Now it's funny. You wrote something on the Purple Evolution page about that. What exactly was the threat that we were told about?
Well, that was for the 6th. I had heard a lot of conservatives just wait till the 6th. You're going to see it's all going to come out then, and then you'll know all of it's going to come out then. Just wait for the 6th. Just wait for the 6th. And so I kept asking people what was supposed to come out on the 6th that we were supposed to find out about. Like I didn't see anything that came out that was as monumental as what I thought was being portrayed. Was it evidence about how the election was really stolen? Was it evidence that, all Democrats are evil, or that QAnon exists, or, we're going to see, Tom Hanks and Hillary Clinton in back rooms, raping children? I didn't see that. I didn't see those videos. I didn't see. So what was it that was supposed to happen? That's what I was talking about.
Right. And some people did, comment on that, and a lot of it was they were claiming that the foolproof evidence that the election was stolen was going to be shown, and the undercurrents of how dangerous the Democrats are is we're going to finally show the evidence, And boy, I'll tell you, people certainly did not heed those warnings, and they are now. The
So
warnings
was
have
it
been.
shown?
It
Was
was.
it shown? Because I'm
It
not
was
sure
not.
what I missed.
All that was really shown was a Trump speech that day, a protest to the Capitol, and then a murderous mob that went into the Capitol to say, we're going to take things into our own hands because we believe we have enough evidence to do this.
Okay.
But
Okay.
as far as making evidence for the rest of us, I don't
Okay.
see that as happening. And even the people that I know that are on the right completely disavow
Okay.
that thinking. So we are united. Okay, you wanted something positive? I just got something. We are united 99.9% as a country that Capitol riot was disgusting, unwarranted, bad news, and they should be prosecuted.
Okay. So question for you. Got it. Question for you. If you are out there listening or watching and you have the answer of what we were supposed to see on the 6th that everybody kept saying, just wait till the 6th, you'll see, please tell us what it was. I'm not saying that it's not true. I want to hear it. But number one, please tell us. thepurpleevolution.org. You can write on there. You can click the button on the contact page and record your message, and we'll play it for others to hear. You can send a message on our Facebook page, thepurpleevolution.org. It's all right there. Please tell us what we were supposed to see and what the evidence is. My second request is please do it in a way that's not totally unpurple, because it's just, I stop listening when I hear so much name calling and so much blanket statements and so much, swearing. Okay. A lot of that when it's in an attacking way. Can you say it in just a civil way? Tell me all the videos that were sent to me were not any evidence. It was just other people saying how the election was, run by horrible liberals, and that all the, mainstream media is Satan. And that doesn't give me any evidence. So please tell us. And I do have one big request for the 20th, and that is everybody stay home. Please stay home. The inauguration you don't need to be there that badly. Stay at home, be safe, please. I don't want another civil war. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm a little nervous that I'll have very dear friends fighting on the opposite side of me and coming to kill me. And nervous about it, but I don't want it. So please stay home and stay safe. Do not go outside on the 20th. Do your shopping on the 18th if you have to. Don't even go out on the 19th. Armand and Angelina are saying do it before, stay home from now until the inauguration is what they're saying. So you guys got a bunker underneath your house, right?
We're so in alignment with that I decided to schedule an elective surgery on Monday, just so there's no way I can go anywhere for like a week, so guaranteed.
Oh, I forgot. Your underground bunker is actually above ground. It's called the hot tub and the pool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So
but you do have a fence around your house, so that should keep you safe. Yeah. Maybe not from the squirrels, but
one of the other areas that people are talking a lot right now and blaming the other side and saying it's wrong is the current impeachment and Senate hearing that's going to be happening. One side says, oh, they've been out to get this guy from the beginning. And the other side says he has done impeachable things and we have to discuss it. We can't just make those assumptions. More and more people from the right are moving over to the left, I've noticed, around the impeachment and saying that this is a different kind of impeachment. People like Ben Sass, who's a Republican, and I think that we had the least partisan impeachment in the history of America when 10 Congress people moved over to the left, that are on the right, moved over to the left and voted for impeachment. So
okay.
Yeah, I think those are important things because it's showing that it's not so drawing on party lines the way these things usually happen.
Okay, and let's look for examples where liberals went over to the conservative side too, because I don't want the conservatives out there that are watching this or listening are thinking that we're just showing how the liberals were right and you guys are coming over our way. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking
Great.
about being purple. We're talking about being civil. We're talking about making our politics what's best for America as opposed to one side against the other. So, you know, we're not trying to say one side's better than the other. We're trying to say that we're
Right.
working together.
Good point.
Yeah.
What, and I'm
Yeah.
talking about it more like I like to see. I know with the Supreme Court things. Hold on a second. Let me fix that. Oh, that's one of my red friends that wants to talk with me. That's awesome. I've been having great conversation with some of my red friends on things we never used to talk about. Um, Joe Manchin, I believe, is one of the guys on the left that has sided with the right over the impeachment thing. Pretty sure. But I like the idea when there's a bigger consensus, just because
Mhm.
it's not so drawn up. The Supreme Court things, whenever they have a Supreme Court uh, ruling, and it's like 7-2, regardless of what the issue is, I get kind of excited about that. I go, oh, the majority of these folks are on the same page. That's the kind of legislation I most want to see. But
Mhm.
yes,
Yes.
definitely the left moves to the right moves to the left in certain situations. This particular one around the impeachment seemed to move more to the left.
Yeah, we could talk about this forever, and I don't want to berate it for
Yes.
forever on this episode. So I'd like to move on, but before we go on to our award and quote and mail, is there anything else about this that we need to share? Or let me ask you this: with that being said, do we have an award winner for this episode for the Purple Evolution Award?
You won! You did it! You did it! I knew you would! I just knew you would!
We do. Let me see if I can find him here. I had a guy. Let's see where he is.
And while you're doing that, I'm just gonna again emphasize, we're really the Purple Evolution is in this with everyone together. Please stay safe. Please,
Mhm.
you don't need to go out and be in the midst of all this turmoil unless you're looking to get violent and use violence as your tactic to create change. If that's the case, then there's nothing I can say to you that's gonna, keep you at home. So, then you do what you need to do. But otherwise, just stay safe and yeah, stay
And
safe.
I would add, be extra courteous. Somebody cuts you off, don't cut them off back. Don't give them a finger. Give them a mulligan. Give as many people a mulligan as possible right now,
Mhm.
because you have no idea what they're on the edge of.
Wait, you
So
mean shut your mouth
shut your
and
friggin' mouth.
That's
Yeah.
right.
and take a breath and consider that everybody else has a sad story as well?
Yes.
That's a great
Well
idea. That
said.
is
Well
a
said.
great idea.
So the Purple Evolution Award today is going to a guy named Eugene Goodman. Do you know who he is?
I don't. I know Eugene Levy, but not
Yeah.
Eugene Goodman.
I know the other Goodman that was in
John
Roseanne,
Goodman.
John Goodman. This is
Yeah.
Eugene Goodman. And I first saw him on TV. He was the Capitol police guy that got mobbed in the Capitol. And rather than shoot them or do anything like that, he led them away from the unguarded Senate door that was going into the Senate floor, where a lot of our politicians were hunkering down. He knew if they went over there was going to be some trouble, because they had already said, hang Mike Pence, et cetera, et cetera. Rather than escalating it, he guided them. Let me see what it says. He strategically lured dozens of the Capitol mob away from the unguarded Senate floor. And you can see, I mean, he was, I would say he was in fear for his life. And they followed him up. And then was on his walkie-talkie telling people where they are. Please bring reinforcements and help these people that are in an unguarded situation. So he wins the Purple Evolution Award because I would have just taken my gun and shot those people that were coming towards
Yeah,
me.
you would not have done that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That you see a whole mob coming against one guy. There would be some dead QAnoners if I were
Okay.
on that watch, probably. But anyway, that I thought that was
Eugene
very
Goodman.
heroic. Eugene Goodman.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. How about some mail? Any mail from our viewers, listeners?
Oh yeah.
And by the
Now
way, if you're
this-
listening, we have started to put all these episodes on YouTube as well. So please feel free to go to our YouTube channel, The Purple Evolution, and watch the episodes as well.
Yeah, Doug says we, but it's mostly Doug. All the behind the scenes and
Right.
amazing stuff. By the way, I know that I created this idea, but Doug, you have brought it out to share with the world, and that's good work.
Yes.
So about a week or so ago, I put a post on describing the America as 4 kids. And I said, each kid needs to be attended to. Each kid needs to be heard versus typically 3 kids gang up on the 1 kid. And that's what we've been doing to the Confederate kid for a long time. You lost, you're part of the South, you're bad. We 3 kids against you. And I believe those angry kids revolted at the Capitol. That's my theory. But somebody wrote on that, and that's what she wrote. Her name is Cerise Patron. She said, the more we push the other ideologies away, the more anger and resentment will hold. What we really need is family therapy, but each has to want to attend that family therapy before we can begin. Sadly, the original innocence has grown into something else, and the hard outer shell, aka blinders, is not letting reason in right now. The fear and anger has overtaken and grown into the darkness. I know there is hope. There's always hope. And when love is present, but how light and love penetrate that shell, I do not know. So that is an open-ended mail. But we're going to
Okay.
find out. We're going to find out as a country. We have to.
Well, we are finding out every day, it seems like right now. So yeah,
Right.
lots of opportunity to practice our skills. Angelina,
Yes.
got a quote for us?
Yeah, I had 2, but I'm changing it after
Oh,
the
you're
discussion
changing it
today.
midstream. I hate
Yes.
change.
Oh, she is living on the edge. Woman
So-
on the edge.
This is from Thumper's mom. If you can say something nice, shut
Your friggin'
effing
mouth.
I think that was the 2021 version.
Yes.
If Walt was around to hear that.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Walt.
That was in the
You can't
original.
say something nice.
Walt cut that part out the same way he cut a lot of Mary Poppins
Yeah, it was
out.
edited out.
I love it. I love it. Well, awesome. I will say I know that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. I was on the phone with my younger brother today, who is a medic in Springfield, Mass, and he says Springfield, Mass has, like, I can't remember how many times the crime that New York City does. It's just a crazy place for crime, and he now is he manages a bunch of medics, and he said every other day, at least he says half of his calls, half of his shifts, he has a police chase where they're chasing somebody, and there's just a lot of violence in that town. And I know that we have a lot of violent thoughts right now out in the world. And so I want to just tell everyone to please, unless your thought process is, I have to go out there and physically fight, please shut your effing mouth, take a breath, consider somebody else's story.
Right. And
that's kind of what I want to say. Angelina?
well, you say physically fight, but let's maybe also keep our mouth shut so we aren't verbally fighting too, because it can get pretty heated and ugly there too, and that's never good either.
Sure. No, that's kind of what I meant, because what I meant is if someone wants to physically fight, then that's, there's nothing I can suggest. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But if you're not wanting to go there, then exactly, take that breath.
Yes.
So Armand, would you like to take us out?
We've already said, both of y'all have said everything that I'm feeling right now. The idea that we each can do our part. It could be one conversation. I'm going to be calling my friend who wants to talk to me about something. She wants to see why I don't see it her way. And I sometimes want to see why she doesn't see it my way. And somehow we talk and we both understand the other person's way. So yeah, make your difference one person at a time. We can make a difference. We've got 300 million of us.
What was Thumper's mom's name?
Remember, there are good people in the world. If you can't find one, be one. Let's make America civil again.
When they're right people, I don't know when they're wrong people. We're all different shades of humanity. I don't know when they're liberal people. I don't know when they're conservative people. We're all different shades of humanity. Unlimited, now we are all the same. One phrase.
No politicians were harmed in the making of this podcast.
The Purple Evolution would love to hear from you. Please contact us by visiting thepurpleevolution.org. You can send us an email, post a comment, ask a question, make a recommendation or a critique on our webpage, become a patron, or even shop for Purple Evolution products and gifts from our store. We are just one click away. thepurpleevolution.org. That's thepurpleevolution.org. We look forward to your visit.